There is nothing wrong with a plate of eggs. I want to say that first because the usual version of this video does not. An egg is one of the most complete things you can eat. It is also one of the most incomplete breakfasts you can eat. And those two facts sit together perfectly comfortably once you see why. So this is 3 things worth putting on the plate beside them. Not instead of, beside. All 3 are cheap, all 3 keep for weeks, and none of them require you to like cooking. None of this is about eggs being bad for you. That argument has been going for 40 years, and it was mostly the wrong argument. This is about what an egg does not contain, which is a much shorter and more useful conversation, and almost nobody has it with you. The one at number 1 is the thing eggs contain none of at all. Not a little, none. It is the most common shortfall in this age group and the cheapest one to fix, and it comes last. I have put these in order, from the one that helps to the one I would change first. Maybe breakfast happens before you are properly awake. Maybe you could not honestly say when you last changed it. Maybe the middle of the morning goes quiet and you put that down to the hour. Maybe somebody once told you eggs were the healthy option and you have not thought about it since because why would you? That gets filed under habit and left there. Habit is the description, not the reason. And in this case, the reason is sitting on the plate. Number 3, the one people think is a pudding, plain yogurt. Not the fruit ones with the picture on the lid, the plain one, and it does not have to be Greek. This is the item people push back on hardest, because yogurt got filed as a dessert somewhere around 1980 and it never got refiled. What it brings is the one thing eggs cannot, which is live bacteria. Tim Spector at King's College London has spent years on what varied fermented food does to the gut over time. And the part that changed my thinking is that it is about regularity of exposure rather than quantity. A small amount often beats a large amount occasionally. I had this wrong for a long time and I had it wrong expensively because I assumed the answer was a supplement with a name that sounds like a laboratory. A few spoonfuls of ordinary plain yogurt most days is doing the same job for a fraction of the money. It goes beside the eggs, or after them, or an hour later with something stirred through it. And if dairy does not suit you, the same is true of any fermented thing you actually like, which for a lot of people is sauerkraut or kefir. And kefir is the easiest of the lot because you drink it. That is number 3. Number 2 is the one nobody expects to see at breakfast. Number 2, the tin. Nobody opens before midday. Tinned oily fish, sardines, mackerel, pilchards, whatever is on the shelf and cheapest. I know exactly how that sounds at 8 in the morning, and I would ask you to stay with it for a minute. An egg brings fat, and it brings good fat, but it brings almost none of the long-chain omega-3 that oily fish brings. Philip Calder at the University of Southampton has built most of his working life on what those fats do, and his consistent point is that the ordinary Western plate simply does not contain them, in any amount, most weeks. So it is not a topping up problem, it is a missing entirely problem, and those are different. Now a straight interaction, and I want it in the same breath rather than buried at the end. If you take a blood thinner, oily fish is one of the things worth mentioning at your next appointment, because it is on the list that gets discussed. Ask, do not adjust anything on your own. The practical version is smaller than people expect. A tin split across 2 mornings, once or twice a week, mashed onto whatever is already there. It costs less than a coffee, it keeps for years, and it needs no preparation. And if the smell is the objection, and for plenty of people it genuinely is, tinned salmon is the mildest of them by a distance. That is number 2. Number 1 is the thing an egg has none of at all. Number 1, the thing that is not in there at all. An egg contains no fiber. Not a small amount, not a useful trace, none. And neither does the bacon, or the butter, or the second egg. It is possible to eat a large, expensive, high-protein breakfast every morning for a decade and take in none of the one thing most people over 60 are shortest of. Joanne Slavin at the University of Minnesota has spent her career on that gap, and her point is a practical one rather than a moral one. The shortfall is not caused by anybody refusing fiber. It is caused by the foods that carry it never arriving on the plate in the first place, which is a precise description of a plate of eggs. And this one sits at number 1 because it is the only item here where the gap is total rather than partial. The other 2 add to something you already get a little of. This one starts from nothing. I had this wrong in a way that still annoys me. I thought a fiber problem was solved with a powder, or a cereal with a claim printed on the box. It is duller and cheaper than that. Porridge oats, cooked in water, take about 4 minutes. A small bowl beside the eggs, or an hour afterwards with a cup of something, does more than anything sold in a tub. The starting version is a couple of spoonfuls, not a full bowl, because going from none to a lot in one morning is uncomfortable, and it is the reason most people abandon this in week 1. Build up over a fortnight rather than a morning. If you would rather not cook anything, stir the same oats into that plain yogurt cold the night before, and they need no cooking at all. And one more interaction line, because it belongs here. A real increase in fiber can change how some tablets are absorbed if they are taken at the same moment. So it is worth a sentence at your next appointment about spacing them apart. Again, ask, do not adjust. What it looks like when this is working is unremarkable. The middle of the morning stops being a thing you notice. That is number 1. Your breakfast, start to finish. None of this replaces the eggs. So the eggs go in the pan, as they always did. The oats go on about 4 minutes before in water, a couple of spoonfuls to start. The tin gets opened twice a week, not daily, and mashed onto the side of whatever is already there. The yogurt sits at the end, after the plate rather than on it. Most mornings, rather than every morning. Nothing on that list takes more than 5 minutes, and nothing on it costs more than small change. That is the whole change. The honest part. What this can and cannot do. The title of this video says never eat eggs alone, so let me be straight about that. Eating eggs on their own is fine. Nothing goes wrong. Nobody is harmed by a plain plate of eggs, and anybody telling you otherwise is selling something. The honest version is narrower. An egg is a very good answer to a question, and it is not an answer to the other 3 questions your morning is quietly asking, and adding a few pence of something else answers them. That is a smaller claim than the title makes, and it happens to be the true one. On timeline. The fermented food is the slowest, and months rather than weeks is the honest window before anything is worth judging. The fiber is the fastest, and most people notice something within a fortnight, though the first few days can feel worse rather than better, which is exactly when people stop, usually a week before it settles. The fish is the one you will never feel at all, and that is not a failure. It is what a background nutrient does. What this cannot fix. None of it undoes a diet that is difficult in other places, and a video cannot see your plate. And if your appetite has genuinely changed, or food has started to sit differently than it used to over a short space rather than gradually, that is worth mentioning to somebody who can actually ask you questions back. Not because it means anything is wrong, because a script cannot ask questions. And the last thing, which matters more than the rest of it, some of what changes about eating after 60 is a body that has been running a long time and has earned the right to want less. Not every change in appetite is a problem waiting for a product. This whole subject is sold as though it is, and that is a sales technique rather than a fact. So, 3 things beside the eggs. Plain yogurt, which got filed as a pudding and never got refiled. A tin of oily fish twice a week for the fat that is otherwise missing entirely. And oats for the fiber an egg does not contain in any amount at all. Eggs were never the problem. The empty half of the plate was, and it costs about the price of a newspaper to fill it. Tell me in the comments what you would like explained next. I read every single one. A like helps this reach somebody who has eaten the same breakfast for 15 years and never once been told what is missing from it. And if you would rather understand what is actually happening than be frightened into buying something, that is the entire reason this channel exists. Here is to the healthy living years.